Many regions across the globe are feeling the impact of extreme weather, from torrential downpours to extreme heat waves. Now, what's behind the unsettled and at times severe weather patterns that we've been seeing in the past years? To answer the question, we're joined by Professor Chung Suh-yong from Korea University this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
South Korea was enveloped by torrential downpours this past week. I'm sure you're pretty aware of that, but so were Japan and India. What's behind this unusual extreme rain?
Well, it requires some of the understanding about the scientific factors, actually. So starting with climate change, right? We all know that the climate change is a very serious problem now. And that causes the sort of the increase of the water temperature in the Pacific Ocean around the aquatic area. And then simply increasing 0.5 degree for 5 months. And it will cause not only the temperature increase, also change the currents on the ocean. So we call it as El Nino, right? And El Nino also brings us to the Korean Peninsula by bringing more humid, and then also which contains the more vapors, and then which will form a strong high pressure. And then at the same time that we have cold pressure coming from the north, but because of the the temperature increase in the northern atmosphere, then this the pressure actually has weakened, which contains the cold one. So in the end, at this time in Korean Peninsula, it comes with like a very heavy rainfall. We call it as atmospheric river. So it sounds like it contains almost all the river water, and that pours the heavy rains in the Korean Peninsula that we have been suffering from these days.
Sure, increased in water temperatures and also change in currents leading up to the phenomenon known as El Nino.
Right.
But in the meantime, the other side of the world is experiencing a completely different weather situation, right? The US and parts of Europe are under extreme heat waves. Now, the state of Arizona recording 48 degrees Celsius in the past week. What's happening over there?
Well, actually, today in Seoul, where I am, actually we started to have actually very heat wave already in the morning. Actually, that also happens everywhere, not exceptionally in Europe and the United States, and that's also related to what I have partially described about. Actually, the increased temperature in the Earth actually changes the sort of the patterns of the pressures. We have high pressures and low pressures, but because of the temperature increase, we tend to have a very strong jet stream in the northern hemisphere, which has been weakened. And then that has helped actually high pressure form the stronger formation than before. Actually, high pressure attracts more sunshine to the atmosphere, and then that helps us, actually brings us the more heat waves, a lot more than before. And then unless we address climate change, actually this pattern will only increase as time goes by.
Sure. In the meantime, the U.S. Special Climate Envoy John Kerry visited China this week to reestablish climate agreements between the U.S. and China. Now, no fresh agreements there. Why is it so hard to get China involved in the fight against climate change? I mean, why does it matter so much that China plays an active role?
Well, based on the science understanding that I briefly explained about, and then it sounds like it's necessary for all the countries to get united and orchestrated to fight against the climate change. However, all different countries have also their own interest-based way of thinking. We sometimes call it as a national interest-based approach. And then these days, especially because of some of the formation of the new, sort of the political, possibly confrontation between the U.S. and EU-led group versus China and the Russia-led group, and that has actually prevented very severe barriers in terms of the fighting against the climate change as one single group. So I do hope that John Kerry's visit will help China to better understand, even if there are some differences in the political and economic matters, but this one, the climate change issues, should be addressed as one single actor, in the sense that I do hope that China will will be persuaded enough to come back to the talk on the climate change once again.
Right. That's why it is important to separate diplomacy from the fight against climate change, as they are two different topics. And climate change is something that we all are facing as a global challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, experts around the world warn climate change may only worsen the situation and result in even more extreme weather conditions in the coming years. Now, what actions, Professor, do you suggest we should implement and promote here in South Korea and around the world so that we can maybe prevent or at least slow climate change?
Well, we need to increase the ambition to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by every country. Here in Korea, I think the current administration is doing its own efforts to do so, but I do hope that we will strengthen more sort of the control tower within the president's office so that the different ministries can be united actually under the same goal of fighting against the climate change. To do so, we have to maintain every effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions so that we can maintain the goal that we voluntarily set. That's a 40% reduction in 2030 as planned. And then during that time that we can deploy all these different low carbon and carbon neutral technologies that will also help us to create new jobs. So, fighting against the climate change is not only about the matter of survival, but in the end, it can be a very good chance for us to create new jobs during the process of this very important endeavor together with other countries.
Sure. Thanks so much for your insight this morning, Professor Chung. You have a good day.
All right, you too. Thank you.